Coming to you from top secret field offices worldwide, these brave men and women fight a battle for truth, justice, and good clean data. These agents of change make up the Bureau of Records, Objects, and Standards. They are the Data Bros.
Hey everybody, welcome to Data Bros, issue number 5, volume 1. I'm not going to go further than that. This is Data Bros. It's a comic book industry podcast talking about comics, comic data, comic book retail, and running a modern shop. Your weekly 30-minute appointment to hang out with us and talk shop. I'm your host, Jeff, and with me, as always, are Django and Brian. Hey, boys.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, pal. Look at that. We didn't even step all over each other. That's
good.
Hey, we got flow.
Hashtag professional.
Hashtag pros. This has been a wild week. Last week, it was sort of a, calm. Right now, we're just in the storm, aren't we, boys?
So stormy.
It
So
always
stormy.
feels like I'm in the storm, though. Honestly,
That's true. I can't speak for other comic shops, but we, Bellingham, got hit with some heavy snow up here. We, had to close down on a Wednesday, which is never ideal. And then we, of course, the following week had all of our comics come in just on totally random days. We got Penguin stuff on a Wednesday. We got something else on a Thursday. It didn't make sense. So to everyone listening, I hope your comic shop has fared slightly better with deliveries than ours has.
I've heard that from a ton of different stores, including out in Alberta a few weeks ago. There was a massive flood that caused them to lose power in downtown Edmonton, and so there's a bunch of shops that just straight up weren't even open. Which I'm sure, I don't even know how often you guys get deliveries these days. When the UPS driver goes by and is like, oh, the lights are all out. Oh, I guess we're not delivering today. What do they do? Because in the old days, it's just once a week you were going to get delivery. So if the power was out, you just hung out in your shop on a Friday. But now it's really? Am I going to hang out
It could be any day of the week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just glad
crazy.
that this last week, Jeff has had a chance to take some naps and chill out and not check books in every single day. Since this is the week of February, early February. Right.
You
now.
must be thinking about another Jeff.
Against the rules. No naps.
No naps.
Boys, Oh, Brian, please.
My son lives by a credo of no naps. He doesn't believe in naps. Yeah. Because every time he has a nap, he wakes up and he's all out of sorts. So he's like, I just refuse to nap. I don't care.
I get that. I had a several year phase like that. Now I need the naps. Now this tank.
Nap is it's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm very excited to get into this week's Data Bro-Ification. Yeah, this one is a little bit more up your guys' alley. So I'm excited to hear where the conversation goes and see what I can offer, if anything.
Yeah. So at the beginning of every month, or actually, I guess technically at the end of every previous month, we get the major data from Diamond, Lunar, Penguin Random House, sometimes Universal. And basically what we have to do is, I'm curious, Django, I wonder how much my process differs from yours. And I'll highlight
Can
my
we describe ours? Or you want to describe
Yeah,
yours?
let's hear yours. Let's hear yours first. I'll lean back and listen.
So what we do is it works basically the same as an FOC, because an initial order is basically the same thing as an FOC. The only real difference being that we have pre-ordered quantities if it's an FOC. For the initial order, we'll download a couple of files from Diamond, and we'll create an initial pre-order in Comic Shop Assistant, and then we'll upload those files to Comic Shop Assistant. At that point, CSA will do its best to match barcodes, and then after that, we have a list of all these items that are not in our main catalog, and so we go through and just import those, and then we have to go through and make sure that images are correct, descriptions, titles match what we want them to match. We have to make sure that series codes are accurate.
Are you going through and manually like reviewing all of the data when it comes in? Like, you've got a human that's kind of looking at everything?
In
Or
the
do you
case
have
of initial
like
orders, the human is me.
okay,
But we have a whole bunch of tools for it. So like we
yeah,
can sniff out likely incorrect series codes or missing series codes.
sure.
We do a bunch of data comparisons to create the titles in the format that we want them to be and things like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we miss
that's
things every time, you know.
yeah. So our system is a little bit different. So everything goes into my master database called GeekFetch, and in that database, we basically treat the UPC or ISBN as the primary key. So everything that comes in has to have a UPC or ISBN. So the very, very first thing that I do before we do anything is I open all the files. There's 2 files from Diamond, just like you said, one from Lunar, one from Penguin Random House. I open them all and I sort by UPC and ISBN. And on Diamond's file this month, I found there's 5 missing UPCs or ISBNs.
Who publishes those 5?
Oh, it's funny. 4 of them are actually a company called Diamond Publications. And they consistently, I think it's Game Trade Magazine, Previews World, and the Previews order form.
Paper
And then there's
catalog,
one, the adults only catalog. Those
right.
4 things never have UPC codes. And then there's always 1 or 2 random like NECA figures or something like that are missing any sort of code. So by default, those things just don't get imported into our system because we can't track them any other way. We can't trust that the diamond code is going to be the same from one thing to the next. So we just ignore them. And then Lunar's usually pretty good. We do a couple of checks though on Lunar just to make sure that things are kind of mapped right. So there's a few publishers that I know always seem to biff things up. Opus is one of them. I think they used to be called Behemoth. So we always kind of give those an extra actual human eye check. We've had some problems in the past where good example is like image with Duke number 0 had a specific series code.
Dutch.
They did not Duke. Yeah. Because I keep on getting mad at Morgan and then realize, wait, this is
Duke and
Rob Liefeld
Duke and Cobra
problem.
Commander had their own problems.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, those are totally, and I feel like those
They're still
might be
wrong.
our fault. Yours and mine.
Yeah, we might have had a conversation we shouldn't have.
Yeah. We may have just should have let things happen. So yeah, Dutch was all messed up, and it took me and this is for 5 comics, like literally 5 physical comics. It took me an hour and a half to unwind what had happened and basically roll back the clock and figure it out. Have conversations with Image. You were on that chain, wasn't there? Like 7 people on that email at one point.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like it doesn't take much for like barcode confusion to really throw a wrench in things. And like you and I had to deal with it. Braden, who does our FOCs every week, has to deal with it. And then 800 other stores who don't have anybody managing their data.
Right. Yeah.
1,000 other stores, more than that, have to deal with it also. So it's like got huge downstream effects.
Yeah. So Lunar and Diamond had completely different barcodes for Duke number 2. And apparently it's been solved with number 3. And I'm actually that's one of the spot checks I'm going to do before we kind of bring everything in, is to make sure that number 3 has been resolved. So there's just stuff like that all the time. So once we bring all those products in, then they all get matched up together. We have some automated checks that check for series codes, that check. Now we do one that checks to make sure that we're not automatically assigning trade paperbacks regular series codes, because that can cause a whole other problem. By the way, with Penguin Random House, a hardcover will have the same series code as the trade paperback, which could cause anybody subscribed to getting the hardcovers to also get the trade paperback, which would be a nightmare because it usually has the same content. Yeah, so that's kind of our, it's a hassle. And then to add one layer of complexity, we have this thing called the European Union. I'm not sure. Are you guys familiar with it? It's part of the Commonwealth.
Aren't they your kings in Canada?
Yeah, well, no, we don't have, like, we have a king, but we don't actually. Well, we swear to the king, but we don't. Anyway, it's complicated, Django.
Okay.
So we have the Diamond UK data that I get from Diamond UK, and it is so inconsistent that the headers are not the same from one month to the next. And I'm not just saying like the names of the items in the headers, which would be one problem, but sometimes blurb, which can be called description, is like the 4th column in, and other times it's the 28th column in. So we can't even like, it's such
there's no way to programmatically sniff that stuff out because they're changing everything.
I have to open that up every month, and I reformatted it all, and then I insert it into our system.
And that's that's unforgivable, in my opinion.
Oh, I totally agree. It's like, it's such a nightmare. So I've been trying to get a Diamond UK contact so that I can sit down and talk with somebody and just say, like, I will build you a tool to make this easier if that's what it takes. So, like, oh my gosh, I will totally build you a tool. But yeah, that's a little bit of my data woes. But when this is all done, we have one single source of truth for everybody. So it doesn't matter who your distributor is. We have a single source of truth that has all the information. That information gets updated 2 times a week. I want to get to a point where a system just updates it manually or automatically every night at midnight, but we're not there yet. But
that's a lot more manpower.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more programming power, but it will require less actual review. But I'm just not convinced right now that the data is stable enough to not have somebody looking at it.
You know, next episode we'll maybe talk about the Comet standard, which might fix some of that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice if we
at least help?
100%.
I'm not convinced anything's going to fix anything, but I think it'll help.
Yeah, I
maybe fix it 5 years from now.
Jeff, I know you are obsessed with a tight 30. You love you a tight 30.
Oh, you know.
If we wrap up data Bro-Ification right about now, I think we should be able to do a tight 30.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great opportunity to either throw to our sponsors or respond to some email questions. Our docket has throw to some sponsors, alternate throw to sponsors and some emails. But we threw to our sponsors last week, so if we're going to follow alternating, I feel like we would do an email. Is that correct?
Might be, or maybe we just throw to our sponsors. Who even knows? Let's see what the generative AI voiceover announcer says. Why don't you go ahead and take this away?
Hey, some important messages coming up. Stick around.
Hey, it's Data Bro Brian here, and I've been asked to read this prepared statement from Murphy's Apple Juice, LLC. It says, for immediate release, Murphy's Apple Juice, LLC reassures stability amidst executive discussions. Murphy's Apple Juice, LLC, a leading name in the production of high-quality apple juice, today announced that the recent discussions between the chief executive officer and the chairperson of the board have no impact on the company's daily operations or its commitment to delivering the delicious apple juice that customers have come to love and expect. The company wishes to assure all stakeholders, including customers, employees, and partners, that it remains steadfast in its mission to provide the best apple juice on the market. Quote, our focus on quality, sustainability, and innovation continues to be at the forefront of everything we do, said a spokesperson for Murphy's Apple Juice. The discussions between our CEO and chairperson are part of our continual efforts to strengthen our leadership and strategic direction. These discussions have no effect on the day-to-day operations or our long-term goals, end quote. Murphy's Apple Juice has been a household name for years, known for its commitment to natural ingredients, environmental sustainability, and community support. The company is excited about the future and is looking forward to introducing new products, engaging in community initiatives, and continuing to contribute positively to the health and well-being of its customers. And then it goes on with for more information, please contact Murphy's Apple Juice LLC, blah, blah, blah. About Murphy's Apple Juice. I don't think I need to read all that, but there you go. There is a prepared statement from Murphy's Apple Juice. I guess they don't have an ad this week. Fair enough.
All right, now back to the show.
Gosh, that guy's good, isn't he?
He's fantastic
He's
at what
so
he
good.
does.
Isn't it like it's
Sounds Canadian,
melodious? Well,
So-
Melodious
his
and
Kate
Canadian.
does, but his actual words sound American. It's just like they've got a Canadian cadence.
All right, well then let's have a little bit of emissary Yammer, industry Yammer. Let's talk. Let's talk root vegetables.
Yammer.
Let's talk yams and sweet potatoes, and which one
Seriously,
is better.
I
They're the
prefer.
same thing. They're the same thing.
I prefer sweet potatoes massively.
Oh, Brian.
They're the same
Talk
thing.
about.
No.
They're not.
You guys.
They're not. One of them.
Well, they are
gives you twins.
They are in Canada. A yam and a sweet potato, exactly the same thing in Canada.
No,
What are you
yams.
excited about in 2024, Jeff?
Yams are rough, dark brown skin that is often compared to tree bark, and their flesh is dry and starchy like a regular potato. Sweet potatoes have both smooth, reddish skin, softer flesh, and a sweet flavor.
In 1992, Premier Stephen Harper outlawed the yam in Canada, so we just now only have sweet potatoes and we call them yams.
And that is the brother of who wrote the article we talked about
David
last
Harper's
week.
brother.
Yes. All right, everybody. So let's talk a little bit about 2024. We're moving forward to 2024, and I want to know some of the things that we are all excited about on here. Brian, you put a couple things on here. That's fantastic. They are very good things to be excited about. One of which you said was the Ultimate Universe and the Energon Universe. I'm very interested to see how the Energon Universe is going to fare over this next year. There's been many things like this that have decreased in interest and popularity. Transformers outsells the other two books for us drastically. I guess the other three, Void Rivals is technically in it. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. And again, we still have people coming in for Transformers #1 issues, which they're on like fourth printings of, but we still have a lot of 2s and 3s. So I haven't seen manifest what the actual sell through data is going to be, especially once we have Daniel Warren Johnson no longer doing the art on the book.
That's what's interesting to me. Yeah, like what happens because he's only doing the first 6 issues. So then what happens in the next arc?
We know Jorge Corona's doing the art, and I assume DWJ is writing it.
Yeah,
he's still writing it. Yeah.
For at least, I think the first 12 issues, he's going to write it at least. But yeah, it sounds like he's already kind of starting to work on his next creator-owned project, which is great because the world needs more duo power bombs, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just going to be really interesting, I think, to see the tail on the other two series. I'm very surprised. I don't know who would have predicted Transformers to be selling like it is. I sure wouldn't have. We ordered a ton of it, which is fortuitous. Still sold out. But, I believe the article we talked about last week had listed that Transformers is selling like 4 times as much as a bunch of other books, or maybe I'm thinking of a different article, but I think that's it's like 10 times as much what the Transformers at IDW is selling. And so does that speak more to the quality of the product that was coming out from IDW? Was there this huge fan base that people wanted to tap into, or in 8 months are we going to be seeing a slightly more standard subscription rate and purchase rate for a Transformers series? So that one has got a bunch of question marks around it for me.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at IDW, these books didn't have a Morgan, right? So Morgan is out there just selling this book. Morgan,
working at Square Enix.
She's at Square Enix now.
So I'm completely wrong. Everything I said, I will take back.
Well, for the Energon Universe, I think the main stopping point for me anyway was always, I don't want 10 miniseries and one ongoing series that's 1,000 issues in. So having them literally reboot the entire universe gives you a great jumping on point. I really hope that we have a year or a year and a half before they do some big dumb crossover or launch 15 spin-offs and one-shots. If they can just kind of ride this amazing series for a little while, I think it's got a good chance of retaining a lot of that readership.
And I think it's cool how they've introduced, like, Megatron was in. Is that a spoiler? Can I say that?
He was in Cobra
Yeah,
Commander.
it's a couple months.
It's been a
ago,
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Megatron's in Cobra Commander. Jetfire was in Void Rivals that looped in. I don't know if Duke has had anybody from the Transformers universe in it. That's the
He
one
was in
name
the
I'm not
Transformers
reading.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was totally in Transformers. I just mean.
Oh, you mean the other way?
I think
character.
Starscream's effect has been in there.
But it's cool that it's kind of a shared universe, and I think it's pretty neat. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Well, yeah, and also
Ultimate
just that,
Universe-
like, there hasn't been a Transformers comic that felt like the Transformers cartoon show in
True.
many, many, many years. So that's just another really interesting publication to move on at UW's point. But
how do you kill Bumblebee in the first issue? Like, what?
I know, I loved it.
Thank God.
Retailer call that Morgan had organized a couple months ago, they talked about that happening and some of the editorial push to do that. It was very interesting. And then the other thing, Brian, it's very interesting. The Ultimate Universe. We have 3 books announced: Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, and Ultimate X-Men. And Ultimate Spider-Man predictably has done incredibly well. The creative teams on Black Panther and our
Ultimate
maintenance
X-Men?
person at our shop is calling me. Ultimate X-Men is by Peach Momoko, who has only been writing and doing the art for books that are very removed from continuity and are small mini-series. Huge community built around her art. I don't know of anybody who praises her writing, so I'm very eager to see one of the 3 hubs of this big push being done by somebody who can be really hit or miss for people. And I can't remember, I think Black Panther is Brian
Edward Hill, and Stefano Caselli,
which is exciting to me. But it's a very interesting 3 books.
What would I know Brian Hill from? Because I don't recognize the name.
He did American Carnage. He did the Wild Storm Michael Cray series. He is doing Blade right now. He did,
Fallen Angels.
He writes good stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's an interesting. I think he's a great person for that. The Momoko one, I'm very apprehensive about.
Okay. Yeah, it looks weird, and I love it. I love, like, it just looks. And I was just reading an article about it the other day, and they said that it won't have. There's not going to be any Wolverine or Cyclops in the Momoko X-Men series.
I'm into that.
Interesting to me. Yeah, like it'd just be different, right?
Momoko, like somebody who's kind of an auteur like that seems like a strange choice for an Ultimate Universe, but I guess this isn't your dad's Ultimate Universe.
How have those Demon Days books been doing? Like, have they done all right for you guys?
They're fine. They're hard to manage because it's a series of one shots, so auto-subbing and cloning people over is difficult. And that's its main hurdle, is not having a solid way of subscribing. And I think they're quarterly too, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the momentum is a little bit weird.
For sure. Yeah. I wonder if how she's going to work on a monthly schedule, and if she'll be able to, get in there and hit a schedule.
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
It's interesting though, because Peach Momoko is kind of like, a quote unquote hot artist. Who do you guys think will be some of the names that come up? Because we're always surprised by, like, a Josh Williamson or a Chip Zdarsky that seemingly come out of nowhere and then kind of take over. Do you have any ideas of somebody we should keep an eye on that could be kind of a next quarterback?
I don't have anybody on my radar specifically, but I want to give Jeff 1,000% credit for calling George Fornes as the next huge, like,
we had a
artist.
crazy run of predicting the modern class of artists right now. About 2 years ago, that is very impressive.
You guys on your podcast, A Perfectly Acceptable Podcast, by the way, are always introducing me to people. Comics Place presents perfectly.
I don't know what it's called anymore.
The Papcast. But you're always what I love about listening to your podcast. What the reason that it is a can't miss every week is because you are always finding things that I wouldn't have found otherwise, and I find that really interesting. Like Django, you read a lot of stuff that I would never read, and I've grabbed a couple things and just been like, the Richard, the Joe Schmelke of it all,
Yeah.
just out of nowhere. But yeah, it's
artist name I would throw in that I recently got turned onto I like a lot is Gavin Guidry. That's somebody I like a lot. Matt Lisniewski is somebody Django and I have been championing for the last year or so. I mean, we were heavy on Daniel Warren Johnson years ago. I can never pronounce his name, but it's like Fatih Bakhturi or something. But he has been doing those super detailed 1 in 25 variants on DC Comics, Django, like the Batcave. He has
love
been doing
those
covers. He did all the covers on Nature's Garden or something like that. But he's an artist I'm very excited about that I hope to be seeing do more stuff.
You guys pointed out that Joker artist. It starts with a G.
Giuseppe Camuncoli?
D. Giandomenico and Giuseppe Camuncoli. Yeah. Those guys have been relatively large names for about 10 years.
Camuncoli did some of my favorite Hellblazer art when it was still with Vertigo.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember their name, but the person that did Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, I think like just the hit
Horvath
of that
or something. Yeah.
Jason Horvath. Yeah. Like, I think that if they want a career in comics, I think that they've already got that solidified. And as far as I know, this is their first book, but their art style is unique and their storytelling is really solid. So I could see them.
That book is an interesting book. Almost, if we weren't already nearly out of time, that's a really interesting thing that happened in the world of comic books in the last month and a half. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. And the giant acclaim around it for reasons like that. The article we talked about last week, speculator stuff going down. I would say in the last month and a half, we've seen promising instances of a return to speculator market.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different speculator market as well. Like those are books, things like that, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It's going to get collected relatively quickly because I think it's a
4-issue
limited series.
Mm-hmm.
So that should get collected, and we should see that, hopefully do really well as a trade.
Just like Stray Dogs, which is a 4-issue miniseries that nobody could order enough of. That became a huge speculator book, and
Isn't there a sequel to Stray Dogs out?
Yeah, there was a sequel series that had a second paperback that came out. So there's 2 series of Stray Dogs, and then on the initial orders that we all did for January, there was a new book by that creative team that is doing like the horror B cover variants and stuff. Yeah, like the movie theater movie ones. Yeah. But that's the cool thing about comics, you guys, is there's always people to be excited about. And I think that we are at a spot where like Marvel and DC are maybe just starting to move up a lot of creators who've made a big splash over the last 2 years. So it's exciting to see those people be moving up. And then once that happens, we're going to see another class of people kind of moved into that B tier that are the people that we've been following. It's a great question, Brian. And I should actually make a point to over the next several weeks of the podcast, the Papcast that we do, write down some of these names to be tracking down. Django's encouraged me to do that because we have called some pretty accurate shots, but like the George Fornes one, we noticed him on Hot Lunch Special, 5 years ago, way before his Batman stuff.
So hot take, I think Cy Spurrier is about to really, really take off. Like he's going to hit that A tier because he's been doing really cool stuff just below the surface, like on big books. Like he's on Flash right now, and he was on one of the X-Men for a while. But I think he's going to be like an architect guy that grabs a corner of some universe and really takes it. The way
Yeah,
Tom Taylor's taken Titans and stuff like that.
he's been putting stuff out forever, but yeah, it would be cool
Oh,
to see
ages,
him
yeah.
rise up. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, you've got these creators and you've got things like Stray Dogs, and what do you guys do? Get into a little shop talk. What do you guys do in terms of, like, you talk about a lot on this podcast, auto subs? Can you kind of give me the
I would love to, Brian.
411, the 911,
I
the
would love to.
611?
There are new series of comics announced every week that are then put into
Every minute.
the systems. Yeah,
Every
that
second.
people can be subscribed to.
There's one.
They're oftentimes one shots, but there are oftentimes like mini series and stuff. So you've got your main
series.
Batman ongoing series, but you had Batman Gargoyle of Gotham, which was a really huge selling Batman miniseries just recently. A term that we use is auto subs, which is the ability to take a list of subscribers who are subscribed to a comic book, like the ongoing Batman book, and with just a couple clicks, take all of those people that are subscribed to that series and add their subscriptions to another series. So it's something that is very powerful, and you have to use responsibly based on sort of how your own store does stuff. But for that Batman Gargoyle of Gotham, we were able to load, our 50 Batman subscribers to get that book, so that they all, who come in once a month, once a 3 months, every week, so that no one would miss that book. And then it allowed us to actually have huge sales from the shelf as well on top of all these auto subscriber things. So you can do it a lot of different ways. It's really important for us, but we've sort of built a culture in our store of people being willing to trust our auto subbing paradigms for those things.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So we have a similar concept called cloning. It's exactly the way you describe auto sub. We have the ability to clone into and clone from. So if you see that Batman Offworld is out and these dudes were previously subscribed to another Batman book that has a similar creative team, then you can clone all those subscribers into Batman Offworld. And likewise, you can take Batman Offworld and clone it from back into another series. So it's a two-way clone.
Yeah, it works real well combined within our comic shop assistant POS system. There's an auto sub preference people can have checked yes,
That's
no,
clever.
or maybe. So that way, if people consistently don't want auto subs, you can just have them always removed from that list, and it doesn't affect their subscriptions to the previous series. And it also keep track of how often people kick back.
I was just going to say that,
auto sub, so you can get a working percentage at any given time to see roughly how often books are being kicked back. So if that person who says they want auto subs always kicks it back, you can be like, no, they don't. I'm turning this off.
Yeah. And just last week, we added a way to get a list of everybody who purchased a specific item and auto sub them from those purchases. Because we have one of our users, if somebody buys everything up to number 6, he just subscribes them.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
So, theoretically, from any list of customers that you could generate, you could auto sub them.
That's really
something.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart idea.
Yeah. A lot of stores use a variety of that. There are stores who aren't familiar with that act, though, and it's always really cool to see people understand what that is and the power of it. There's also stores who are like very against that thing, because you can, if you auto sub, like I auto sub people to that Titans Beast World one shot that's supposed to start the event. It was actually all reprints.
Oh yeah.
So that was my fault. Fortunately, we did sell enough of it to have not been a loss, but it was a dangerous thing. I auto sub people to it, and it was all reprints, so people didn't want that.
Yeah, and that can, as the kids say, burn the territory.
Exactly.
As my
wrestling
friend Jeff says, you win some, you dim some.
Absolutely. And on that killer note, everybody, if we're going to stick to this tight 30 commitment,
tight 30.
It's time for us to start wrapping this old thing up here. You can get a hold of any of us by sending an email to this fair podcast. That email address is podcast@databrosinc.com. Databros Inc. spelled out. You can get a hold of Django and I by visiting our POS system that we're building, Comic Shop Assistant. Brian has an amazing one as well called Manage Comics. You can get him there. I guess I'm just stepping on everyone's toes of an outro. I'm Jeff.
No, I
You
love
can
this.
get
You should
me-
throw your Venmo out there while you're.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. You can get me pretty much only through Venmo unless you've got my text phone number.
You should just
but
say
I
only
am
Venmo.
at-
That's the only social
at
media you have.
Jeff-Figley, capital J, capital F. Haven't seen any donations in there yet. No one has to, but if you want to get a hold of me, you can do that.
But if you do, we're all going to be together in a couple weeks in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Jeff, if you could
I'll
give
buy
us a
drinks for
beer
everyone.
from
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with
Cool,
that.
cool.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Oh,
See you next week.
And Django himself, and Brian's got a handle, and
It doesn't matter.
dim sum.
We're famous.
Thanks, guys.
The Data Bros is a joint project from the teams behind Comic Shop Assistant and Manage Comics. Data Bros are Django Boren, Jeff Figley, and Brian Garside. Brian Garside produces and edits the episode. And you'll find more about the Data Bros online at databrosinc.com. Subscribe, like, and review the Data Bros on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.